It's the Final Word Champions Trophy Daily, brought to you by McInnes Whiskey. More about how you can get 20% off your investments with them later on in the show. But for now, it's the big one. It's the showdown between India and Pakistan, the game that never fails not to disappoint. And to describe how it was disappointing today in 30 seconds, I'm delighted to say, I've got Fidel Fernando from ESPN Cricinfo.
Yeah, I mean, just like the last match, this was kind of lost in the first innings. The last match that we had in Dubai was lost in the first innings. Pakistan, very insipid batting performance, 241. Just to give you an idea, Saud Shakil, 62 off 76. Mohammad Rizwan, 46 off 77. Yeah. They were not batting fast. During that partnership, it felt like we were in deep stasis. And then, India did what India do. Shubman Gill was batting nicely. Rohit Sharma hit a couple of boundaries at the top. Virat Kohli comes in. It's tailor-made for him to get, added yet another 100 to his record. There wasn't much scoreboard pressure. The pitch wasn't really doing much. Pakistan's bowling wasn't fantastic. The fielding was average, and ended up being a 6-wicket victory, even more comfortable than the one that they had against Bangladesh. 45 balls remaining.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is a summary. It's probably more interesting than the actual game, although we are going to pick out some of the elements that made it fun. Towards the back end of the game, for example. Shall I start at the end? I think today I'm going to start at the end. So, because that was the most fun time. We're going to have to get into the weeds of the tedium shortly, but we did have some really good fun moments at the back end because Virat Kohli was doing what he always does in a chase, which was getting his side over the line very comfortably, and well played to him. However, there was a very serious danger he wasn't going to make 100. Now, you will recall, Fidel, that throughout the World Cup in 2023, wherever we went, when Virat Kohli got close to 100, often it would be with Ravindra Jadeja, who would then play out 4 dot balls so that Virat could get to his 100. And I remember Jeff Lemon was very upset by this. I totally got it, because I thought, if you're in Dharamshala and you're watching Virat Kohli, how many times are you going to get that opportunity? And watching the glee and delight in their faces of the crowd's faces when he did get 100, I thought justified it. But I also understand the hard-bitten Australian way of going about these things. This isn't supposed to be fun. We're here to tear everyone a new one. And today, it looked like Hardik Pandya was going to be doing that. So when the third wicket fell, out of nowhere, Shreyas Iyer got out. In walked Hardik Pandya. You're not Akshar Patel. You're the wrong guy. At which point, Hardik then went berserk, came charging down a wicket, was scoring 4s. And initially, the crowd was, that's fun. We'll applaud. And then, the crowd who were all perfectly good at basic arithmetic, worked out after Hardik had got 7 off 3, going, wait a minute. Kohli can't get his 100. At which point, Hardik, looking for a 4, bunted it into the onside. It was a dot ball, and it was the largest cheer of the day. To cut that long and very side story short, Virat Kohli made it to 100 off the last ball, and he got exactly 100. So everybody was happy, apart from Pakistan, and India won by 6 wickets with loads of balls to spare. But that was the most fun we sort of had today, wasn't it?
Because that was the only part of the game where there seemed to be some serious jeopardy, where there was something on the line for somebody to play for, and I think that was kind of a fun part of the game. And, for such long spells in this game, if you had asked us, how do you think this game is possibly going to go, given Pakistan's form going in, particularly the way they've been batting, we probably would have guessed exactly almost down to the score that they were going to get. That it would be, 40 runs short, they'd be batting too slow, that India's bowlers would be all over them, that Kuldeep Yadav would have a big impact at the end, that, that Babar Azam, is going to visibly struggle. We had all of those things. The only 2 moments that Pakistan kind of really had to celebrate was that great Shaheen ball. You can't have a World Cup without a Pakistan Yorker clattering into some stumps. That's one. The Abrar ball to Shubman Gill, who was also batting exceptionally well.
The abracadabra ball, it was that mysterious. It was brilliant. But didn't you, sorry to interrupt you, but wasn't that the problem? That the 2 wickets to fall until the game was basically done were brilliant. And that was the only way to make a breakthrough. You had to bowl a wonder ball. You either had to bowl the classic Shahid Afridi, Yorker toe crusher, or you had to bowl some mysterious weird thing that came out of nowhere from Abrar, because they weren't getting out.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't know Abrar had that ball in him, by the way. So it was a fun one to watch. But we're kind of really nitpicking the good moments in the game, and there was just Pakistan dropped a couple of catches as well. Kushtil Shah dropping one off Haris Rauf, who was incensed by the whole thing. Shubman Gill was the batter who was reprieved on that occasion.
Everyone was incensed today, though. Do you remember? Like, there were a couple of catches dropped by India, and all hell broke loose. Nobody. These two of the grumpier teams. You don't want to drop a catch because you don't get an awful lot of love and support, do you?
I mean, particularly with Pakistan. I mean, we are used to seeing Pakistan have kind of on-field issues, and you almost felt like you kind of wanted them to have a little bit of a meltdown, because to some extent that kind of deep unhealth is better than what we got,
Deep unhealth.
Yeah, it was some chaos, something to make us feel something in this game would have been nice. It was just a thoroughly 6 out of 10 time most of the day.
Harshit Rana dropped Saad Shakil on 57. And he was basically out for 59. It cost nothing. But the dirty looks that were given to Harshit Rana, you would have thought that he'd dropped the World Cup. I'll fill in some of the blanks. Sorry, he dropped a made 62, I should say. I'll fill in some of the blanks. Essentially what happened was that Pakistan got off to a decent start, actually. It wasn't a replay of Karachi against New Zealand. They got to 41. I'm not going to say double quick time. Pakistan never do anything in double quick time. But they did it like a man who had some purpose in trying to get his bus.
Helped by some wides.
That was marvellous. There were lots of them.
The first over was, I think, 11 ball over.
It was 11 ball over. It was wide assisted, there's no doubt.
Mohammed Shami struggling with a shin, I think. Yeah.
But Barber had actually batted with some purpose. It creamed a beautiful cover drive, a couple of them, but the ball after he creamed a beautiful cover drive, clever bowling actually from Harding. I think he's slightly underestimated because he seems to get wickets with what look like crap balls, but actually they're quite smartly done. And the very next ball, it barely moved away, but just enough. And crucially, he dragged the length back about 2 feet, didn't he? So Barber went for the same shot, got the tickle through. Now, that shouldn't be a disaster, but the problem for Pakistan is that the only way they ever get to 300 is if Barber gets a 120 ball 100 and somebody does some crash bang wallop at the back end. So when he's gone, you're looking around going, who's going to do this? And part of you's hoping against hope that formerly nearly top-ranked batter Imam ul Haq, amazingly, had a great ODI ranking, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That Imam Rizwan partnership, when they used to work together, was for a time.
Yeah, it's ferocious.
Very good. Yeah.
Anyway, he immediately after Barber, by immediately I mean 6 runs later, hit a ball so beautifully and firmly to the best stroke second best fielder in the Indian team that he thought, I'm going to go for a suicidal run. Went straight to Akshar Patel, who picked up through at mid-off or mid-on, I should say, down went the stumps, and suddenly they're 47 for 2. And they then proceeded the period of play that gives 50-over cricket a really bad name. So for 10 overs, who would it have been? Saad Shakil and Mohammad Rizwan scored 27 runs in 10 overs. They were on 99 off 25, and you thought, well, this game's done. Because you're not going to get to 300 now, and you need to get at least 300 against this Indian team. So I was going to say within the first 2 hours, it was a bit longer than that because India took an hour and a half to bowl the first 16 overs. So I suppose it was extenuated to a degree, or attenuated, I should say, to a degree. But the game was sort of done through a lack of ambition, wasn't it, Fidel?
Yeah, and the thing about the match is that India didn't have a great start. Pakistan got some advantages in that period. Mohammad Shami had to go off the field. They had to change their bowling plans, bring Hardik Pandya on much earlier than they otherwise would have. And Pandya bowled an excellent spell, by the way, though he was kind of filling in for Shami with the new ball. He was pretty good during that period, and obviously got Barber's wicket. But Pakistan, India was dropping catches. Didn't look especially sharp in the field. They haven't had a good tournament in the field so far, having dropped a couple against Bangladesh as well. Pakistan had won the toss and batted first, which was, the right thing to do. all of those things they had those things in their corner, and yet to get the innings that we did from them, I think was, it's just a sign of a team that's kind of stuck in a either a time warp or a place of very, very deep stasis, and it's hard to you have to sympathize with them because they are they had to come here, they had to travel here, and essentially were the away team in their home tournament. But they've now been essentially knocked out, or very close to being knocked out, in 4 days of the first tournament they're hosting in 29 years.
I would feel for
It's
them.
rough.
I would feel
It's
for them,
rough.
Fidel,
Yeah.
if they hadn't basically played much the same game against New Zealand, only the other way around.
Yeah.
Where New Zealand scored all the runs first, and then they failed to get going in any meaningful way. So this is obviously currently in the team's DNA. To finish off on their innings, they made it to 151 for 2. There was a nice partnership of 104. Then Mohammad Rizwan, I think at pretty much the right time in the 34th over, one might have argued it could have come 3 or 4 overs earlier, decided he needed to get on with it. And the first sign of going for it, he very nearly got out. And then the second sign, he did. It ran past one, it clattered into the stumps, and he was gone, I tell you. Bowled by Akshar Patel for 46 off 77. And bear in mind, he hit his first ball deliciously for 4 off Kuldeep Yadav. And then we thought, hello, is this a new approach? No, it wasn't. And from that point on, the last 8 wickets mustered a mere 90 runs. There isn't a great deal to say about the chase, so I'll finish off with the bowling figures. There were 3 for Kuldeep Yadav. You've already mentioned it.
Yeah, I loved watching him bowl today. By the way, that was probably the part of the game that I personally enjoyed the most.
Yeah,
the just the loop that he was getting, the various things. I mean, I feel like every time we see him in a new tournament, he's got something new to his game. And this is a left arm wrist spin bowler. We are in cricket has never had a bowler like Kuldeep Yadav who does the things he does as a left arm wrist spinner. So every time Kuldeep plays, it feels like we're in fresh territory. It feels like cricket is in fresh territory, and he comes back each tournament with a little bit of more something in his game. But he's just become a massively dependable bowler, and for a left arm wrist spinner, that is
silly,
kind of mad. It's kind of mad.
Cameron Ponsonby said that no one should be a left arm wrist spinner. It's the daftest thing you'll ever do.
Yeah,
it's okay to be a right arm wrist spinner. You take the ball away.
It is a stupid life choice.
Yeah, and I think he's right.
And he has made this life choice to be a left arm wrist spinner, and he's nailing it right now. Which is when you think about the entire history of cricket, his career is kind of a little gem, something that adds so much to the game that we love.
Well, thank heavens you've picked something out because we need.
Yeah, it was getting a bit depressing. It was getting a bit depressing.
We got to
Hopefully, you're all still here.
3 for 40 off 9. He took a couple of wickets for Hardik Pandya, who did bowl really, really well. Harshit Rana also conceded next to nothing, 1 for 30. And then India's batting, well, it went exactly as we expected, except for once, actually, the opening pairing didn't get it to over 50. They average over 70. They go at over 7 runs and over. They're a prolific pairing, Rohit and Shubman. On this occasion, we've mentioned it already. Rohit was undone by a beautiful ball. He got to 20 off 15. He did 3 fours and a 6. He looked in great touch, in that way that Rohit can, like a sort of like a bear with brilliant hand-eye coordination, a sort of bear who could cuff a ski school, and like 9 European children would just fly off a mountain. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
Just like poof, like that.
Yeah.
And
yeah. There was that one shot. I think it was very early on. I can't remember who was off. It was off Naseem Shah, just off his hips into the stands beyond square leg. What the fun part about Rohit is that he used to be this very correct, very kind of Mumbai school of batting, kind of don't mess around too much kind of batter, and obviously had the talent from when he was young. But now he just goes out there and plays like he doesn't care. And, there were some boundaries where he mishit them, and he got 4, which is, we're used to seeing him play like this. But that's also a fun, thing about his career is that he's become this kind of just devil-may-care batter, which when you know where he's come from and kind of the kind of batters that Mumbai tends to produce, and the kind of run-hungry, things that are instilled in them, to see Rohit Sharma just not have a care in the world while he's batting, that's also it's also a good time.
At the other end, Shubman Gill was going along sumptuously, the usual. We saw many of those lovely shots in which there's virtually no follow through. He just drives it and he holds the bat and lets you know. He picked up 7 fours and a 52 ball 46. Was there a hint of a possible way back? Nobody really believed it. At 100 for 2 when he got out to that wonder ball from Abral, worth going and checking out actually, because it does bamboozle him. A similar kind of way to the way that Adil Rashid bamboozled Virat Kohli some years ago, and he gave the same look of bewilderment. But because we must speed through this, out came Virat Kohli, and it was the most Kohli-esque 100 in a low chase you'll ever see. Totally risk-free, 7 fours, exactly 100 runs. The most fun came at the end, just as he realised that he was running out of time to get that 100.
It almost felt like the game just existed for Kohli to add one more in the, because Pakistan got 241, which is enough runs that, you know, a batter can get 100.
Yes.
But not enough runs to put any serious, meaningful scoreboard pressure. And Kohli played, you know, that's how we ended up with at 100 not out with a boundary off the last ball.
I mean, it's beautiful, isn't it? I mean, it's a country that loves their stats, and it's a sort of lovely round number. 100 off 111 balls, 7 fours. It was lovely. There were a couple of wickets at the back end. They were completely irrelevant. It was at the point at which it felt like India had worked out that they could effectively knock Pakistan out, not just by winning, but by winning so well that there would be no way back for Pakistan, even in the very unlikely event that Pakistan beat Bangladesh, that Bangladesh beat New Zealand, and that India beat New Zealand, and somehow Pakistan have a better net run rate than both New Zealand and Bangladesh. How can that happen now? I can't actually see it. I haven't checked the maths, but I'm pretty sure when you lose your first game by 60 runs and then you lose your next game by 7.5 overs, you're toast, really. So even that last statistical hope has gone. Shreyas Iyer and Hardik Pandya made sure of that, along with Virat Kohli's sudden urgency to get to 100. So there you have it. India won by 6 wickets. It was the most predictable win you will ever see. It was exactly what all the pundits were saying. And it's always fun being here. It's always great having a massive crowd and lots of people shouting. And there were plenty of Pakistan supporters today. But as a contest, it didn't really happen. Right. We are now off to the break, where you're going to hear a bit about our pals at CBUS Super, and then we'll be back with the Hall of Fame. Welcome back. First of all, before we get to the Hall of Fame, let me thank McInnes Whiskey. They are helping us through this Champions Trophy. They specialise in sourcing branded single malt Scotch whiskey in casks, and you invest in it. Now, it looks on the face of it to be slightly pricey, entry price like £3,600, but you get 10 guys in on that, 10 guys and girls, 360 quid each. You're investing in the whiskey, developing and growing and becoming something better than it was to start with. It's like a child that doesn't let you down, like a child that really succeeds, like Yashasvi Jaiswal or Shubman Gill. It's a really worthwhile investment. It's not like an investment in me or Fidel. It's an investment in something significant. So that's the idea. You club together, you buy a cask, it gets better. Now, there's no capital gains tax because it's understood to be a wasting asset, right? So as it gets better, it becomes worth more, but that's not a capital gain. So you make money and you don't pay tax. On top of which, we, on the final word, and more importantly, McInnes Whiskey, are offering 20% off. All the details are in the show notes. When you get to checkout, basically you put in ICC Whiskey Cricket 20 when you go to mckinneswhiskey.com, MACINNES whiskey.com. All those details are in the show notes. I highly recommend it. I'm quite up for it. Hall of Fame. Not a lot to pick on today, Fidel. What's your entry?
It's got to be Shaheen Afridi's batting.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Was it first ball? Or, I mean,
Yes.
First ball hit in the. It was just the plumbest of all the plum LBWs. You know, everybody in the stadium knew that it was out just from, you know, a distance. You could tell because it hit him low in the pad, right in front of middle-ish. And he reviewed it straight away, and then basically marched off the field, because as soon as you saw it on the screen, it was just like, well, that's just hitting the middle of middle. There was
He missed it by a foot.
Yeah.
The ball hit him in line with middle and off, and it was hitting middle. You're absolutely right. It was beautiful. It was in the middle of a 2-2. That gave us a laugh, and we needed one today. For me, I'm torn between what I've already said to you, which is the cheer for a dot ball of Hardik Pandya, and I suppose the first over of the match, which, as you mentioned already, 5 wides and 5 individual wides. So it went on forever. It was quite hot at the start of the game. Poor old Mohamed Shami went off, changed his boots, then he went off again for something else. It's almost like he got cramp from bowling 111 ball over. But those are slim pickings today, I'm afraid, on the Hall of Fame, because this wasn't really a game for jollity and laughter. It was a game for sadness and reflection as we look back and think of the gulf between these two sides. And that gulf, it's as big as the Gulf of America, or whatever it's called.
The Gulf of Arabia.
That's also the Gulf of America, isn't it? Are they all being renamed the Gulf of America? No gulfs are free from interference from American naming. We've got to go because you've got to get to a press conference.
I do,
at the very least,
yes,
and many other things. And you've got to write pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But you did say in your piece that you saw Pakistan as like Gandalf, wizardry,
mm-hmm.
and you saw India as Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. And I'm afraid to say that Darth Vader has just stormed onto the deck.
Yes,
and that's it.
Yeah,
done and dusted. The Empire has taken over.
Yes, wiped out all the Istari. Just a nerd reference there for those watching. But yeah, essentially, sci-fi was all over fantasy today.
Congratulations, India. Dominant performance. Commiserations, Pakistan. You're basically, barring a statistical miracle, toast. That's all from us from the Final Whiskey. Thank you to CBUS Super, and thank you to McInnes Whiskey, and thank you to you for watching, listening, and doing whatever you do.